Hello and welcome to Dawn Chorus Writes, a Miraculous Ladybug fanfiction and audio fiction. This is Jheqia's Wednesday and this is a one-shot, The Look of the Mistletoe. So I hope you enjoy. It is written by Jheqia, narrated by me, Dawn. Hello. Make sure you send her some love down in the information below. Go and check her out. Send some love over to the artist, Lucinda29, for the use of her beautiful artwork in the thumbnail. Go and send her some love. Her information's down below. Send me some love by smashing that like button. Comment down below what you think of it. And subscribe if you haven't already. Because even though I don't know how it's happening, but this year's coming to an end. January is just around the corner and there's so many more stories to come, so you don't want to miss out, and I hope you enjoy. The Look of the Mistletoe. Adrien's POV. It was the last day before the Christmas holidays and Adrien knew his classmates were up to something. He could see it in the glances Alia and Nino had exchanged over the last week. He saw it in the shoulder punches Kim and Alex shared and the knowing look Max shot over the top of his glasses. Nathaniel had started not meeting his eye when they passed each other in the locker room, and Chloe was clearly in a snit about something. That, at least, was a regular occurrence, but what the others could have done to set her off eluded him. At least Marinette doesn't seem to be involved, he thought, knowing how she felt about pranks. Their mutual prank at the wax museum had been a disaster, and they agreed that they wouldn't pull any more on each other. But come to think of it, that still wouldn't explain why she got so upset about it. She seemed oblivious to the nudges, winks, and smug mutterings going on around them, instead focusing on her work of scribbling in a sketchbook. At lunchtime, Nino swept him off to the cafeteria, rambling on about some new tracks he was working on, but Alia and Marinette didn't join them as usual. When he asked his best friend about their absence, Nino muttered something about girl talk and blushed. "What would girls talk about that couldn't be done in front of us?" he asked, curious. Nino shook his head. "Dude, I know you've lived a sheltered life, being homeschooled and all, but I have seen your movie collection. You have almost as many romantic comedies as you do video games, and that's saying something, bro." "I don't see what the big deal is," Adrien remarked. "I thought girls just talked about the same thing we do, but added in who they had a crush on." "Probably. Not positive about that though, since Alia has you and Marinette." He paused, remembering Alia had mentioned that Marinette and Luca had broken up several months ago. "Yeah, poor girl." "What's poor about her? She's amazing. She's funny, smart, loyal, friendly, kind, not to mention talented and ambitious. I wouldn't be surprised if she went on to compete with my father as designer someday." "And yet, she still hasn't got a boyfriend," Nino drawled, giving him a knowing look over the top of his glasses. "That never made sense, if you ask me," he mused. "Marinette is so pretty and sweet. I'm surprised half the guys in the school aren't in love with her." Nino nudged him with an elbow. "Maybe you should ask her out, dude." "Wow, it's not like that," Adrien said, waving him off an embarrassed laugh. "Marinette is just a good friend. That's all." "Are you sure? You're singing her praises just a second ago." "Nino, what's wrong with being proud of a friend?" "Nothing, but guys rarely say what you do," he said, rolling his eyes. "But they do when they're crushing, or when she's their girl." Adrien blushed, rubbing the back of his neck with one hand. "But..." "Bro, don't give me that." Nino leveled a finger at his chest. "You like her more than just a friend. You talk about her all the time. You're always up in her space. And didn't you tell me you told off Lila about messing with Marinette?" "Come on. Like you or Alia wouldn't have done the same thing in my shoes." "Me? I don't know. Alia would have torn her head off and spit down her neck," Nino grinned fondly at the thought. That lady of mine is fierce, isn't she? Yes, but... Ifs and buts with candy and nuts, we'll all have a Merry Christmas, his friends resorted. The point is, dude, if you don't get your butt into gear and ask her out, someone else is going to snitch her away. You've already said she's pretty, amazing, and all the other stuff. I mean, you're Adrien's supermodel aggress. What are you waiting for? I just don't know, he sighed. Where had that come from? Was it just Nino pushing? He had meant to say, I just don't see her that way, but... Take it from me, bro. Marinette isn't gonna be a free lady for long, and if you don't step up, then Luca is going to be the least of your worries. Nino stood up and dropped his lunch trash in the bins. Class starts back soon. You coming? Yeah. He didn't know what had gotten into his friend, but Adrien wished he could dispose of the confusing thoughts he had woken as easy as he did this trash. When they reached the classroom, he found out what all the smug looks and nudges had been about. As he and Nino stepped through the door, Nino whipped round and body-checked him backwards. Suddenly, a slight figure bumped into him from behind, and Adrien heard an embarrassed squeak and books falling to the floor. He turned round to see Marinette picking up her books and rubbing her nose where it had been bumped into his shoulder. Sorry, Marinette, let me help. He gathered up her books so she could put them back into her bag. Sorry about the roadblock. Nino seems to think it was a good time to practice his field hockey skills. She looked up at him through her lashes, her mouth tugging into an embarrassed smile, but before she could answer, the room erupted into whistles and catcalls. Adrien looked back at his classmates and found his so-called best friend grinning fit to burst. Alex was perched on Kim's shoulders beside the door with a sprig of mistletoe hanging from a fishing pole directly above his head. They both looked smug for a second before the two jocks started chanting, Kiss! 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 Come on, guys, Adrien called out over the noise. Not cool. It's tradition, sunshine, Alia called from her seat, her camera at the ready. It's bad luck if you don't kiss under the mistletoe, you know, so kiss. Soon, most of the class was joining them, and the room echoed with the cheers as Adrien flushed in embarrassment. He glanced down at Marinette, whose eyes flickered from shock to anger to something like pleading, while her hands crept up to cover her red face. He had many lessons in image management and public relations over the years, and he knew he was not going to be able to talk his way out of this. Not if the pleased, eager looks he could see from the corner of his eyes were any indication. Just then he caught sight of Lila coming up behind Marinette, and he saw a scheming look flash across her face for an instant before settling into a flirting smile. I have enough bad luck being Plague's holder. I don't need to add this on top of it, he thought fiercely. Besides, we're stuck in this mess, and if I have to kiss someone, I'd rather it be Marinette. Marinette, he whispered. Forgive me, okay? What? She looked up confused, and Adrien gave her a swift kiss on his lips. At least, that is what he intended. He had kind of expected her to stiffen up in an embarrassment, which she did for a fraction of a second. What surprised him was that her eyes closed and she kissed him back. Her lips were soft, warm and sweet with the scent of peppermint and chocolate. A spark passed between them, racing for her lips to her extremities, leaving him tingling. A subtle voice clearing itself sounded outside the room, and Adrien was jerked back to his surroundings. Miss Bussier was standing in the hallway, an amused smile on her face, and Lila was sending a death glare at Marinette's back. Sorry, miss, he apologized to their teacher, taking Marinette's hand and helping her up. Her face was red as a rose as he escorted her to a seat, and she wouldn't meet his eye. He shot Nino a look that said, Just you wait, bro. And the rest of the class had scurried to the seats, and the fishing pole with the embarrassing ornament had disappeared. Ridiculous, utterly ridiculous, Chloe muttered from across the aisle. For the rest of the day, Adrien felt the stares on his back from all over the room. He was used to being stared at, but not like this, not as a victim of a prank, waiting to see how he would react. He could keep up a composed front, but he was sure Marinette had a perfect view of how red his neck and ears were, or she would if she looked at him. When he had turned round to pass her some papers, she wouldn't meet his eyes. "Have I just ruined our friendship?" he thought, worried. "I didn't start this thing. It wasn't my idea. It was a stupid prank that Nino and Alia cooked up. But what if she hates me now? I don't know what to do if Marinette didn't like me." The thought brought a lump to his throat and a gnawing feeling to the pit of his stomach when he heard sniffles quietly behind him. When the bell rang for the end of the day, Marinette fled from the classroom as if her feet had wings, leaving a history book and a best friend behind without a word. Adrien, Nino and Alia exchanged glances, the latter looking guilty. While he didn't allow himself to get angry often, not as Adrien anyway, he crossed his arms and levelled an intense glare at his two friends. "And you guys say I'm a social novice," he said, his soft voice coupled with a glower. "Sorry, my dude," Nino muttered, trying to pull his hat down over his eyes in embarrassment. "Yeah, Adrien, it was only in fun," Alia whispered. "Marinette is the one who deserves the apology," he said flatly. "You two need to go and make this right. Marinette might get akumatized over this, or did neither of you think of that?" From the look on their faces, they clearly hadn't. They both grabbed their things and rushed from the room to find their friend. "Well, it's a start," he thought, "but now I have to go and apologize too." He grabbed Marinette's textbook and took it with him, both hoping he would find her to return and afraid of what would happen between them if he did. As he passed by the art room on the way downstairs, he heard the sound of sobs and the voices of Nino and Alia. He wouldn't intrude on them, but he wanted to make sure Marinette had calmed down before he put his oar in, potentially making things worse. "Come on, girl, it's not that bad," Alia was saying in a soothing tone. "Yeah, dudette, if Adrien really had a problem with it, you know he would have backed off quick." You both should have known better," Marinette sobbed. "Especially you, Alia." "Marinette, Adrien probably thinks I had something to do with this. He'll hate me now for sure," she wailed. "Oh, Marinette, I couldn't hate you," Adrien thought sadly. "And I could tell by your face you didn't know what was going on." "But Marinette, you have been trying for 2 years to tell that boy how you feel. We all just felt like you needed a little push." "And he thinks the world of you," Nino added. "You should have heard him talk at lunch." "Wait," Adrien thought, his mind screeching to a halt, trying to take in what Alia had just said. "Marinette likes me? Is this a celebrity crush or no? No, Marinette. She knows me too well for that to be the case. 2 years? Besides, you haven't said a word about what the kiss was like," Alia teased, trying to lighten the mood. Adrien heard a hand slap hard against the wooden desk. "What do you expect me to say, Alia? That it was amazing and everything I could have dreamt of? My secret Christmas wish come true? Well, it was. It was amazing, but it wasn't real." "If you think it's some kind of illusion, girl, I have the evidence on my phone." "Not the time, babe," Nino's voice muttered. He heard Marinette sigh. "I want Adrien to like me for me. Sure, I would like him to kiss me, but I need him to want to do it. Not because of peer pressure or because Lila was coming up behind me, ready to take advantage of the situation." So she had known Lila was behind her. Dad didn't make this situation any easier. There were a few sniffles and the soft sound of a nose being blown. "Besides, a kiss has to be given, not tricked or stolen, especially a first." "I was her first kiss?" Adrien felt a blush rise to his cheeks as the memory of her warm peppermint and chocolate kiss swept over him. Despite the circumstances, he felt strangely happy and excited at the thought. "Look, we're sorry, Marinette. Really, we are. We should have respected your feelings more." "Then respect them now and go and apologize to your best bro, Nino." Marinette sighed. Adrien could almost hear the air quotes. "He doesn't deserve to get emotionally manhandled this way when he has enough on his plate. And if you post that video anywhere, Alia, his dad may get angry and pull him out of the school for good." I promise," her friend said in a subdued voice. "And we already did apologize, Nino muttered ruefully. "He said we should go and apologize to you. Make sure you didn't get akumatized over this." "You gonna be okay, girl?" "I don't have much choice, do I?" she replied sadly. "If all Adrien wants to be is friends, then I will be the best friend I can be to him." Here her voice dropped until he could barely hear her. "And just hope he forgives me." "Marinette, you did nothing wrong," he thought wistfully as he ducked into a nearby classroom to avoid the stares of the others as they left. Aside from their misunderstanding when they first met, she had been nothing but kind, considerate, and helpful to him as a friend. Now, knowing that she had fallen in love with him, that she had been in love with him all this time, he clutched his jacket over his chest as a strange sensation swept over him. It was like Marinette had been planted in his heart long ago, and now, without him trying to bury them any longer, feelings for her sprung up inside of him. Memories of all the little sweet things she had done for him, and all the things he suspected were her workings in the background, blossomed inside of him like a garden. Nino had been right. He did have feelings for Marinette. His heart pounded fiercely in his chest, and his hands were shaking at the revelation. He touched his lips where hers had kissed him, and for an instant he ached for that electricity that had passed between them. Adrien was interrupted from these pleasant thoughts by a quiet snickering in his shirt pocket. He pulled his jacket and shirt open a fraction and glared at his Kwame. "What's so funny, Plag?" "I just never thought Pigtails would get around to telling you," he said, snorting with laughter. "You knew?" he hissed in astonishment. "Pfft, obviously. Remember giving her your umbrella?" "Yeah, my second day." His little friend shot him a knowing look and a smirk from inside his pocket. Adrien swallowed, eyes wide. "That was when she..." "Give the kid a prize." I have feelings for her, Plag," Adrien whispered, worried. "What do I do?" "How about talking to her?" "I can't do that," he groaned, pacing the room nervously. "There was this whole mess with the kiss prank, and she is next door crying because she thinks I'm angry because of it, and I was eavesdropping and shouldn't have heard any of that. It was a great kiss, but she thinks it wasn't real because she thinks I didn't want it. But I sort of did, and now I don't know what to do about it." Adrien?" came a shy voice from the doorway. He swirled around to stare at Marinette, both of them blushing furiously. Her eyes and nose were pink from crying. Hey, Marinette," he stammered, dropping his jacket close to run his hand distractedly through his hair. I forgot my book," she replied softly. She looked down at his other hand and realized he was still holding her textbook. "Oh, I was going to find you," he said hurriedly, handing it to her. How much of that did you hear?" Her blush darkened. Her eyes were worried. "Oh, only the last bit. I just wanted to make sure you were okay." "Yeah, are you?" She flickered her eyes away from him, biting her lip. "I wanted to say I'm sorry. I didn't know what they were planning, otherwise I would have talked them out of it." She had avoided answering his questions, and that worried him. "Why?" he asked before his brain could catch up. Her eyes snapped onto his in surprise. He mentally winced. Why did I just ask that? What are you doing, Aggress? Because you always said that we're just good friends, and I wouldn't want to lose that, she said fervently. She took a deep breath and closed her eyes as if steeling herself for a blow. You mean a lot to me, Adrien. That came out in a rush and a tad loudly, but it made his heart sore. She really did care for him. How could he have been blind to this? To her? He stepped forward to her, gently taking her hands in his as they tried to creep up to cover her rosy cheeks. You mean a lot to me too, Marinette. He couldn't deny it anymore, not the way his heart was pounding and the way his hands tingled as he held hers. I know, she said, looking up at him through her lashes, 'cause we're friends. She saw a flicker of that same pleading expression in her eyes before it was hidden behind a soft sadness, and a tense smile before looking away. No, he said softly, turning her head back to him with a finger on her chin, because you are you, Marinette. Could it be those bluebell eyes now held a trace of hope along with the confusion he saw? He blushed and looked down at her hands in his. I hate that my first kiss was used as a prank, but I'm so glad it was with you. Really? She whispered. Of course. And if you're willing, I'd like to do it again. For real this time. All the anxiety worried melted away from her like snow in spring, and Marinette gave him the sweetest smile. I would like that too. He raised a hand to cup her face, pulling her in. She was warm and soft, and the taste of chocolate and peppermint on her lips was dessert by itself. She grasped his jacket to steady herself, raising herself up on her toes to reach him better, and he responded by wrapping his arms around her waist. Oh, why had he waited so long? Nothing could be better than this kiss. It was perfect. It was a granted Christmas wish he'd never known he wanted. When they reluctantly pulled away, Marinette's eyes were sparkling like fairy lights. She is so beautiful, he thought fondly. Black cat or not, she is worth pushing my luck. May I walk you home, Marinette? He asked, holding out a hand to her. Her smile and her soft, small hands resting so trustingly in his larger ones were all the answer he needed. Twining his fingers with hers, he raised her hands to his lips with a gentle smile. As he escorted her from the school, he didn't see all the high fives, smug looks, or money-changing hands. All he saw was Marinette's beautiful smile, and despite how they had gotten to this point, he was grateful for the look of the mistletoe. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. That was such a sweet little one-shot. Make sure you smash that like button below. Go and send Jheqia some love by writing it. And make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on future treats to come. And I hope you're good, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.